So with this talk, I want to talk about what is open source intelligence, talk a little bit about social engineering in terms of the different types of social engineering, things like pretexting, your various ishings, which plays into whaling. I mentioned baiting and dumpster diving in this scope of the presentation just to let you be aware of it, but I don't really discuss that in this presentation. We talk about applied social engineering in terms of how we actually want to do it, because while this is a defensive talk, I'm going to talk about offensive methods, because this basically is a talk that's going to help you, the enterprise defender, be able to run your own internal phishing campaigns without having to use something where you just give it email addresses and it sends a terribly worded email that's just so blatantly fake that people just never fall for it, and that's not really a true measure. We'll talk about the integration between OSINT and social engineering, some mitigations, and then the training of team. Along the way, I'll talk about things that I learned during the SECTF, because that's definitely one of those moments where my social engineering at OSINT knowledge was put to the test, and I was forced to learn a lot of things in a short period of time to be successful. So taking these things away, you should be able to do similar things for your organization or in similar competitions, whether it be at DerbyCon or DEF CON, or if Chris decides to do it anywhere else like LASCON, maybe here, I don't know. So very simply, what is social engineering? It is nothing more, if you want to explain to the layperson what it is, it's human hacking. And they're automatically going to look at you like you're an axe murderer. It's like, no, not that kind, sorry. So basically, you're just taking the human factor into account and exploiting the weaknesses. People innately want to be helpful. They want to do what is right. They don't want to be that guy that's like, you know, you see the person coming behind you to come in the door. No one wants to be that guy that slams the door in their face, right? I do. Not because I'm a terrible person, but because unless I know that person very well, I'm not going to let them in, because, well, when I'm trying to get into buildings, my favorite thing to do is carry a dozen donuts and a cup of coffee. Go right through the door the smokers go in, they will break their neck to let you in just to get a donut. I've seen it happen time and time again. And realistically, we're in an era of information security where everybody's talking about a blinky box. Ooh, there's a blinky box to solve this problem. Spend $500,000, $5 million, even $1 billion to solve this problem. Well, that's all fine and good, but what happens when someone phishes the blinky box administrator? They've just taken over that blinky box that has complete network visibility. I can see all of your packets because your proxy's feeding over into your IPS, and I have access to your IPS. I can start opening ports and protocols to allow myself to get in. Obviously, with a firewall there, I would have to compromise that. But as you know, we're all fairly aware, there's this thing called credential reuse. And the way in might just be tricking someone into giving you their password. Or something I've learned recently, just ask for it. I mean, so I do have my official badge here. I am a state password inspector. I will be doing password inspections in the lobby after my talk, so get there early to avoid the lines. I did it this last weekend at SkyDogCon, and the line was just unbelievable. There was also a buffet going on at the same time, but it was a really good line. I've got these 3 books up on the screen because if you want to learn more about it, these are what I would consider the seminal works of social engineering. Of course, we have the Christopher Hadnagy book. We can't talk social engineering without Kevin Mitnick. And then something that Chris leverages a lot would be the principles of persuasion, which is a concept brought about by Dr. Robert Cialdini in the book Influence. And we'll get into those 6 principles in just a few moments, but that book really reins in the psychology of social engineering. So I don't have a PhD, but I was studying towards one, and I will be honest, most of my research towards social engineering did not come from tech journals. It actually came from psychology journals. There was just more stuff there. So we have the pioneers of the art. The top left, we have Kevin Mitnick, of course. The bottom right, we have Christopher Hadnagy. Dr. Cialdini is on the top right. And then on the bottom left, we have Frank Abagnale. You may recognize that name from this little movie with tiny indie unknown actors in it. Catch Me If You Can. Every time I think about this, I always think about how he would play a character, but at the same time, I always think to the scene where He's got the toy airplanes and he's putting them in the bathtub to get the stickers to melt off so he can affix them to the check. So while it's not necessarily social engineering, it's the same concept. You're getting in the mind of something, you're impersonating something, and that is definitely a relevant concept. And he's talked quite a bit about social engineering and open source intelligence concepts in his other books like Stealing Your Life, which is also a good read. So when we talk about social engineering, we all know what phishing is, right? Spear phishing just being an ultra-targeted phishing attack. You could be targeting a person, you could be targeting an organization, but it's still spear phishing because you're honing in. You have the whaling. That's one of my personal favorites, to be honest, and that's just going for the senior executives. I find that it's highly effective for the reason that the executives have this preconceived notion that because you're able to get in contact with them, you've already been vetted. They have a certain level of trust. So they're willing to click whatever. You give them a convincing story, always. Phishing, it's voice. Smishing is via text. Baiting, that's something like dropping USBs with a little something extra on it. Dumpster diving, I think that goes without explanation. And tailgating, that's just weaseling your way in the door. Why do I have Daniel Day-Lewis on the screen? Well, it's simple. He's a method actor. He's all about impersonation. I didn't know this until I was researching for this presentation, but he actually didn't bathe for 3 months while they were filming The Crucible because that was the cultural norm during that period. So I'm sure that that scene when he's in the water and then he rises, it was probably really refreshing for his castmates, to be honest. Not even gonna lie. I actually lived in Richmond, Virginia when he was filming Lincoln, and all the local restaurants have signs up, to my knowledge, to this day saying, Lincoln dined here, because he never got out of character. He was always dressed as Abraham Lincoln. That's taking it to an extreme. But when we talk social engineering, we have to think about other disciplines, which I've already kind of mentioned psychology. We have that. There's acting, of course. If you're on a phone call or face-to-face with someone, you've got to have a scenario. Improv plays into it very well, because especially in phone calls, like when I was in the phone call phase for the social engineering capture the flag, I couldn't drive the conversation. I was soliciting these people for information. So I had to let them drive the conversation. I just had to be able to improv my way through getting them to tell me what it was I was asking for. So I had to restructure my approach and some of the questions I was asking and how I was going about it. So definitely take those into account. If you want to go the academic route, you could take all the psychology classes you could, as well as acting and improv. Public speaking probably wouldn't be a bad one either. So diving into the psychology. So here's those 6 principles I mentioned. If we really want to dive into that, think about the last time you bought a used car. My favorite scenario. Oh, this guy, he was just here. He really wanted to buy that car. He left to go to the bank to try to get financing for it. But I'll tell you what, if you can get the financing stuff done before he gets back, it's yours. That would be principle number 6, scarcity. Hey, I'm committed to you. I'm always looking out for someone. Oh, you're a veteran, so am I. I always do the best things for veterans. Well, that's commitment. Or, you know, my manager said, I can't knock any more than $500 off of the cost of this car. I mean, I really want to, but at the same time, you know, we've got to make a profit, and, you know, we got to put food on the table too. You know, my kids got to eat. You know, just do this for me and I'll throw in free car washes for a month. Reciprocity. Boy, wouldn't you like to have this BMW? Everybody, like every young professional in their 30s has one of these. You really need one. I mean, you're going to go to the office and they're like, yeah, this guy's made it. Yep, social proof right there. Likability, you know. Find me a salesperson that doesn't try to appear likable. Whether they really are or they aren't, I mean, that's debatable, but they try to be likable. Hey, I've met some pretty strange salespeople in my days. And the one that you don't see, like, in buying cars would be authority. We see that one, if we want to see that one in the phishing arena right now, ransomware. When you're getting an email trying to infect you with ransomware, and I'm going to try to convey the verbiage as I recall seeing it, but your computer is infected with several malwares, and it's attacking our server. We have determined that you have pornographies to include bestiality, child, and a bunch of other disgusting things. If you don't click this link and let us fix your problem, we're going to report you to the FBI. Or an FBI warning. Hey, you've been downloading things illegally. We're taking your system hostage until you pay for it. That's the authority principle. So, how do we apply this? Social engineering aims for two things. They want you to give up some data, or they want you to do something. Hey, wait a minute, this sounds very similar to sales, right? Oh, you can't buy this product? Oh, can you tell me who the decision maker is? Could you schedule a meeting? Well, there you go. There it is. You either buy it or you tell them who can. But basically, there's something that may not be readily available. Or I might find something like, I may find that there's a resume hanging out on, shout out to a sponsor of the conference, Indeed, that someone posted that says, hey, I work for such and such company. Well, it's funny because I'm researching that company for this competition. Oh, you upgraded your phone system from Avaya to Cisco VoIP? Oh, that's amazing. So then with that, I have the information, but via social engineering, I can confirm that's true. I have someone on the other end of the phone. They already have some sort of trust built with me. I've built a little rapport with them. Hey, can you look at the phone on your desk for a moment? Does it say Cisco? Yes? Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure. We still have some people who haven't converted over yet. Oh, you're not the person who handles the Blinky box? Can you tell me who is? Could you hook me up with that data? Okay, thank you. Or, I mean, the one that always works, get someone griping about their organization. And as tech professionals, we run into this problem all the time because out there at LobbyCon, we can hear it. Yeah, you know, we were working on this technology and I don't understand what that company's thinking. They have the right idea, but they're just completely going down the rabbit hole with it. What's wrong with them? Well, that right there could be used. All you got to do is get somebody talking. Tell me about the problems you face in your organization. I'm not saying don't talk about the problems you have because you may find the solutions here, but be cautious about what you're providing. And then, of course, we know the actions. Make a change to a firewall, open an email, open an attachment, click a link, you know, your standard fare, right? So OSINT, where do we get OSINT? Everywhere. I'll tell you, this is something that actually happened after I created these slides. I was having dinner this last Sunday at a restaurant in Knoxville. There was a lady behind me. She's what I call an oversharer. You know those wind-up teeth that just sit there and chatter? She was like the human embodiment of this. So she was talking to her friend, oh, I work at such and such bakery. I've worked there for 5 years. They've been open for 19. Okay, cool, duly noted. Well, why is it called such and such bakery? Oh, the owner's name is Donna Smith. Okay. Oh, that's why it's DS Bakery. Yeah. Okay, yeah, she trained at such and such school. Oh, that's amazing. So do they do like wedding cakes? Well, sometimes we do. I actually made one for my ex-boyfriend's girlfriend. It wasn't a wedding cake. It was a birthday cake for her because even though he and I aren't together anymore, we have a really good relationship. We're still the best of friends. Actually, when we split up, we share custody of our dog. How do I keep from turning around and looking at this and being like, you're stupid? Anyway, so she keeps going. So at this point, I know where she works. I know that she's all about some bakery. She's got a dog. Her dog is too good to have the name Leaf. His name is Leif. Yes. So then the woman's like, well, what does such and such think about it? That's her new boyfriend. Interesting. She's like, oh, he's totally fine with it. You know, he's best friends with Leif. They go to the park and play Frisbee all the time. It's like, who throws the Frisbee, him or Leif? Interesting. Anyway, so I get back home and my spidey senses are tingling and I'm like, I want to see what I can find out about this person. Based on this interaction alone, here's what I was able to do. I went to the bakery's Facebook page. I looked for pictures to see if this woman, she had a very distinct haircut. in my opinion, it's not necessarily a positive thing to say it this way, but I'm sure it's a very trendy haircut. I couldn't have missed it. No pictures. All right. Well, let's do a Facebook search and see who works at this bakery. Nope, nothing's coming up. No one's admitting, except for a couple of people, and more on them in a bit. So I start reading through the reviews. 4.5 years ago, she gave that bakery a 5-star review. Buzzinga. So I got to looking. Well, there's Leif. He's just as ugly as he sounds. Ooh, there's Jeff. What's Jeff do? Oh, Jeff's a comedian. That's hilarious. Let's see here. Look through the friends list. Oh, there's Dustin. That's the ex. Oh, there's Leif in a picture with him. All right, let's be a little bit sneakier. Well, because I had her name, I knew she had a dog. I knew where she was located in Tennessee. And she had done a few check-ins. I was able to do a little triangulation. Well, next thing you know, I'm on Google Street View looking at the front door of her house. It was a craftsman house in a gentrified part of Knoxville. Shouldn't be much of a surprise. But I could have went further, but I stopped right there. I just wanted to prove the point. And I'm actually currently working on sanitizing a lot of this information, like blurring out pictures, changing names, and stuff like that. And there's going to be a blog post about it. I don't know when and where, but that's the in-person example. We can also get this stuff from the internet. So I got a few leads in person, but I went to the internet for it. Social media, I mean, that's the gold mine. During the SCCTF, one of the flags is, what kind of badge did they use? I found an employee of this company that had a picture of his new and old badge on his Facebook page publicly. Complaining about, I was such a happy guy when I first started here, now I look like I'm going to murder people. Yeah. Oh, there's the company name in it too, thanks. I really needed that. Mass media. Press releases, those are always a fun place because companies always like to brag about what they're doing and they always spin things a little bit. It's just the nature of the beast. Specialized journals, conference proceedings. If I worked for a company that was doing new and innovative things or we had encountered some problem and I was giving a talk about it, YouTube would be the place to find it. You can find out what technologies companies use. I hate to say this, and this is kind of contradictory to the whole conference idea, but you can watch videos of that company's employees and see what they're talking about. They may be using a work computer, they may not be. I'll tell you straight up, I'm not using a work computer, so anything you see here, you can't use it against Sword and Shield. You're gonna have to do your own research, sorry. But you can find that kind of stuff out. Geospatial information, it's always fun. Google Maps, it's always your friend. Two of the other flags for the SCCTF, who do they use for shipping and delivery? Well, there was a big boxy brown truck on Google Maps when I was looking at this company's street view. Well, how many shipping and receiving companies do we know that use big boxy brown trucks? Yeah, it's UPS. At one of their other sites, there was a dumpster. Google usually does a good job about censoring this data out. They didn't completely get the entire logo out, so I was able to recreate that and figure out which company it was based on trash companies in that area. And then that leads to photos as well. With that, there's metadata within photos. You can see things that are happening in the background. You can potentially track things down. Like for example, you might get the latitude and longitude of the picture, and then from there, like Josh Huff did at DerbyCon 2016, he was able to determine based on the reflection in this picture, this is a Dodge Durango from 2006 to 2011, it's gray in color, it was in this geographic area. Further research, had he went that far, could have told him, hey, it's one of these three families. This family was in the Caribbean, so it wasn't them, so it's one of these two people. You could find out exactly who took that photo without even knowing, just from a little research. And speaking of Facebook, this is a good way to gather OSINT. And seeing as I was on a submarine for 7 years, I find this slide to be incredibly ironic, but it is definitely how we're doing it. In this day and age, we're viewing the world through the lens of Facebook and refusing to open the door to the real world, right? And that's just the nature of the beast. Bless you very much. So where can we get it? Public conversations. I've already talked about that. Bars, malls, restaurants. I mean, you could go to 6th Street here any given week or day of the world and find out more than you ever needed to know about, more people than you ever wanted to know about. You get a little bit of alcohol in them and they're willing to just tell you everything. Family and friends. Who in this room does not have a Facebook account? Never had one. Okay? Siblings, parents, children, close friends. By a show of hands of the people who do not have Facebook accounts, of all the things I mentioned, who doesn't have accounts there? Exactly. I hate it when my mom posts pictures of me to Facebook. I hate it. I started just throwing up the middle finger. Well, she's learned to be able to adjust her geometry a little bit, and that's gone away. But basically, what it boils down to, you can't control what other people put on there about you. During the SCCTF, I found their CFO's daughter's Facebook. I found so much stuff about their CFO just because she was an oversharer. So understand that just because someone doesn't personally have it, that you can't get information about them from it. Back windshields. I'm not going to dive too much into that because there's some upcoming slides that's going to talk about that. The internet, forums, job boards. Forums is a really good one because I was using the syntax of company name plus the syntax of their phone number in a Google search, and I came across a forum it was from a mailing list that they had published it just to a website for historical purposes, but someone from this company had posted an entire configuration file for their backup system because they were having problems. Well, that was awesome because I was actually able to pivot and find his GitHub account from there. And then from that, I was able to find out that they use Nagios, Red Hat, and they commonly wrote internal scripts in Perl, Ruby, and Go. And ironically, he really stopped posting after July 2016. He got a new job in August 2016. And from then, he shifted completely over to Python and PowerShell. So that's a pretty good indicator that the company was probably using those languages. Yeah, it might have been a flavor of the week type thing too. It could have been. But there are not many people that are using Red Hat at home. Most people are going to use CentOS or Scientific, right? Not many people are going to use Nagios at home unless they're running a home test environment. So those are reasonable assertions. Job boards. Same company. I'm digging through their job postings, seeing what's going on, trying to find some technologies. They had an ERP administrator position that said you must be well versed in Oracle ERP version 12.2.5. I found that same string on ExploitDB, not once, but twice. Cross-site scripting and a server-side request forgery vulnerability. So, what could possibly happen there, right? So when we talk about the goals of OSINT, I've rehearsed this phrase, so just bear with me a moment. We have to Ermagerd collect all the dirter. I had to work on that one for a while. That's a tongue twister. But we want to collect all the data, right? But we don't want to be like the South Park underwear gnomes, right? Because their philosophy is step 1, collect the underpants. Step 2, step 3, profit. So let's apply this to OSINT for a second. Step 1, collect the OSINT. Step 2, step 3, weaponization. What is step 2? Or really, is weaponization step 2? That could be the case. How are you going to retain this? And we'll talk about that in a moment as well. So when we talk about back windshields, I can't count the number of car accidents I've nearly been into trying to get these pictures. It never fails. Every time I see a car with these, I have to try to snap a picture. But what can we infer from this? Dad may work out. Dad may like to make people think he works out. Dad probably has a dad bod. You could probably catch Dad in the gym either right before or right after work. So one of the 2 5s, AM or PM. Mom, she's a teacher. Okay, we know her work schedule. That's pretty easy. John, he looks old enough to play competitive sports. It's probably competitive soccer. He probably practices 3 to 5 days a week during season. Neil, he's a skateboarder. A pair of Airwalks or DC shoes and a Thrasher shirt, you've got rapport with him. Introduce him to something like the Misfits or the Descendants. I guarantee he's probably never heard of them. Jessica and the dogs are the curveballs for me in this one. I can't ascertain based on the size of the Jessica stick figure her age. Jessica could be in high school and Neil and John may be in college. I don't know. You can't tell. Beaker and Ruby, they're dogs. They're going to bark. So if you think of this from the perspective of you're doing OSINT to try to break into someone's home, You're not going to do it during spring break. Mom's a teacher. They may be on vacation though. Check their social media. But during a school day would probably be an ideal time. Maybe right after school, but you never know. So here's another one. This is from Eastern Tennessee. So it's a Navy dad. They seem to be very fertile. I'm not sure why they went in that order with their stickers, because usually, the parents go first, but I don't know. And they seem to be rugged adventurers and athletes doing Ironman and half Ironman. So if you want to fish them based on this, look for an upcoming Ironman event near this geographic region and send them a coupon code, because who doesn't like coupon codes? I like coupon codes, not really, but I like to use them. They work very well. So that's just one way to get them. This family here, I don't think we're going to get much data off of them. I don't think I'd want to break into their house either, because I don't feel like being eaten by a T-Rex. So when we talk about social engineering and timing, social engineering and OSINT, we have to talk about timing. And we can't talk about timing without mentioning Flava Flav, right? Because we got the time. I mean, we could also talk like Salvador Dali and his melting clocks artwork, but sometimes you don't have to go at 1,000 miles an hour. There was a term that we used in the Navy, and that is slow is fast. And that don't mean go with the rate of turtles racing in peanut butter in January. It means take your time, be meticulous, be very methodical and very precise in what you're doing, but don't rush. Because when you're dealing with social engineering and OSINT, there's a good chance you're going to find something right as you're about to finish that's going to make you restart the entire process. When we put it into the context of like a sim, it's just like event correlation, right? You have an event in the sim, it's doing its thing. Oh, a similar event just happened. It's going to fire this rule. We're going to start doing correlation. Same concept. So take your time, work through it. If you're doing it as a pen tester, even though this is not a pen tester talk, I understand you're going to have a certain amount of hours to spend on this, or this is going to be part of the actual pen test or the social engineering engagement. You're going to have parameters to operate under, and that's fine. But bear in mind that you can be more efficient than just going and manually looking for things. Script some Google searches, use your tools like ReconNG, Datasploit, Spiderfoot, Maltego if you like it. If you can get your hands on it and you're not dealing with a large organization, Foca is always a good one as well. But take your time, do it right. So let's talk about the relationship. So basically, with social engineering, you're exploiting the human element. With OSINT, you're collecting information because of a human factor. That human factor being people just generally overshare things without being solicited to do so. Or when they log into Facebook and Facebook says, oh, how was your day? They will legitimately answer. No, it's not the right answer. But better OSINT means better phishing. And how does this stack to a talk for enterprise defenders about using phishing? Well, it's simple. As a company, you go to reduce your OSINT footprint. You run OSINT against your own company. You find the things that's out there. I recommend going and downloading the flags used for the SCCTF and look for each one of them. Have your employees do the SCCTF, or at least the OSINT portion. See what they can find about it. It'll work, because you'll find things like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be bragging that we use semantic antivirus. Maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should talk to the CEO about that picture he has on LinkedIn that has his badge on it. Something to that effect. LinkedIn's a great place for badges, and everybody's the director of something there. Always. Or they're the chief something. They're the chief director of everything. There we go. But having the better OSINT, that's going to give you a better basis to be able to communicate with someone. So, like for example, through my OSINT, I found out that a lot of people that worked at my Target liked craft beer. My phone call was at the end of the day on a Friday, so the lady answers. I was like, happy Friday, how's it going? Oh, I can't complain. What time do you get out of here? 4:30? Oh, so you work like 7:30 to 4:30. Your schedule is one of the flags. Yeah. I'll tell you, I can't wait to get out of here and drink some craft beer. And I could hear her eyes light up. Oh, I love some craft beer. I can't wait to get out of here. I just got a whole new case of such and such. Oh, how is it? I've never tried it. Oh, me either. Oh, well, just whenever you try it, just run into me in the hallway and let me know how it goes. I'm interested to find out. I'm going to be drinking this such and such beer. And then at that point, the rapport was built. She trusted me. I asked every question I wanted to, and she tried to answer if she could. There's a tool out there called Passwordology. You can input things like spouse, children, parents' names. It's spelled PWDLOGY. It's on GitHub. You can put that information in there, and it will actually construct a password list for your target. What's something else we could use OSINT for? To some degree, attribution, using a tool like OnionScan. OnionScan does a lot more than just that. It helps assess privacy as well, to make sure people are not being dumb about their connections to the internet and having the same fingerprint for both their regular internet and their dark presence, but that's always a possibility. You know who else likes to use OSINT? The cops, of all shapes and sizes. Funny example, in my hometown, we have an agriculturalist, as I will refer to him. He's also an unlicensed pharmacist, if you get my drift. He took a picture of his crop and put it as his Facebook cover photo. If you know about Facebook, you cannot hide that. It is always public. In Eastern Tennessee, we have a little newspaper that circulates that we call the Smut Sheet. Guess whose picture was on it? It took about 3 days. Sales and retail. I mean, you ever wonder why the important stuff like milk and alcohol are at the back of Walmart? Yep. There's a little bit of psychology to that. That's more on the social engineering side. The other side of the coin, who here, by a show of hands, uses things like the Walmart savings catcher or a Target red card or reward, any reward program? I do. I don't use Walmart and Target. I use them for hotels. Airfare, I mean, yeah, they're going to collect the data. That's a calculated risk that I'm willing to take. But keep in mind that companies do that, right? Like, for example, Urban Outfitters got in trouble because they were asking for zip codes and they started sending people paper mail after they had been shopping there. How did they get it? Well, OSINT. Target, they outed a teenage girl as being pregnant because her shopping habits changed, and they started sending her coupons through her rewards program, and her dad just happened to see it and was like, why are you getting coupons for baby food, diapers, and a crib? I don't know. Well, you know what? We're going to the doctor tomorrow. We're going to find out. They found out all right. Target got in some hot water for that. And I don't know what this guy's selling, but I immediately want to buy it. He looks very authoritative. Oh, look, here's some more. This one's from Eastern Tennessee. I think that's Sleepy or Grumpy. I'm not sure. We have another somewhat fertile family. We can tell by the bumper sticker they like dogs to a degree. I believe that's a collie. And we can possibly infer, because this is Eastern Tennessee, and they have some sort of farming dog, that there's a good chance they're conservative based on the sticker above that. So, I mean, people always like to click emails about politics, right? I mean, we have a very polarizing figure in office right now. There's not really an in-between. It's love or hate. So you can probably get someone to open an email based on that binary measure. And we have this. What kind of OSINT can we get from this? Well, I can tell you this. They love America. I have good intelligence that the person driving this car actually told me that the president has been barbecuing bald eagles in the White House bird bath. I'm just kidding. But the irony of this, it's a Toyota Camry. This was taken just outside of Nashville. It would have been a little bit less ironic if it were like a Nissan, because there's a giant Nissan factory in the Nashville area, but it's a Toyota Camry. There's lots of America there, though. When that car hits 65, bald eagles come out of the hubcaps and it just takes off. It's amazing. To reiterate what I said before, it's not once and done. You might need several rounds. If you have the time, like During the SECTF, I had 3 weeks to collect all the data on this Fortune 500 company. Your mileage may vary. But again, you might find that one little tidbit at the very end that's like, yes, I need to go back and I need to plug this into the equation. Ah, the email syntax, I was using the wrong email syntax. Something like that. So from a perspective of both offense and defense, what are some considerations we need for collection, right? What kind of data are we collecting? How do we need to store it? Are we doing something ethical? Of course, like if we run across child pornography or something like that, I don't think there's a person in this room that would object to reporting that. But is there something that we've found that we need to report? Like, for example, does our target have a Pornhub account in their name as a company, as a Fortune 500 company? I was asking for a friend. Some states, technically, to do OSINT or forensics, I don't know, I see how the two are somewhat related, you may need a private investigator's license. Some states you don't need one, but you're subjected to other laws if you have one. I collected the data. How do I protect it? Is there a retention requirement for it? Like with Michael Basil, when he's talking about the Buscador operating system, that's something you're going to run in a virtual machine, and then as soon as you're done with that investigation, you blow it away. So you're not having to store that data for any period of time. Obviously, if you're doing this for a company, you may want to store it for a little bit of time so you have historical pieces of data. How do you dispose of it? Can you dispose of it? What value? What can an attacker do with this? What kind of value? How much would this go for on the dark web? These are things you need to consider. And then even with that, hey, if there's a lot of value to it, if you have to store it for a long period of time, I don't know, maybe like credit report data. You know, we've all heard of that company, right? What kind of protection measures must you put on it? So when we're weaponizing it, we need to be like, we don't need to be like the underwear gnomes, right? We need to, step one, collect, weaponize, retain and destroy as appropriate. That's basically the phases you're looking at. So let's talk about some of the mitigations to like really get into the defensive portion, and then I've got a little bit of a technical demo towards the end here. So with the mitigations, there are technical things out there. Malware protection will work to a degree. EDR software will work to a degree. Given that you exhibit a specific behavior or they do know about your signature, you'll get busted. Maybe not. Maybe by knowing what they are using, you can bypass it and dance around it. Proofpoint is a great product for emails. It tells you when something's coming from an external source. Does it stop people from clicking on things? Nope. Slows some of them down at least. User behavior analytics, that'll work to a degree as well. But what I found to be most effective, do OSINT and social engineering against your organization. When you're doing OSINT against your organization, it's a double-edged sword on this, because from one vein, you need to do it. Have someone within the company run open source intelligence operations against your organization. Don't do it against your employees, though. If you're going to do that, you need to get a third party, whether that be Sword and Shield, any other consulting firm out there, someone. Here's why. You're going to come across personal information about your employees. You don't want to betray that trust. Let someone else collect all of the data, do what they need to do, and give you only the pertinent things. That way you're not making it a habit of snooping through your employees' private lives. Your employees will appreciate you for it. They might get mad because you paid someone to snoop through their stuff. They're going to be a lot less mad because somebody else snooped through it instead of you. Phish your employees frequently. I like the idea of quarterly. Quarterly training, 15, 30 minutes. Hey, here's the new threats, here's the new trends, here's what's going on. This is the kind of ransomware or malware that's being perpetrated. We've seen the following types of phish in our organization. It doesn't have to be anything complex. Maybe once a year you do it for an hour, and every other time it's 15 to 30 minutes. That way it's a refresher, it's stuck in their mind. Run the phishing campaign. I'm not a fan of the buy this solution, use this software, deploy this phish model. I'm a bigger fan of do your own phish. Some of the domains I've bought for doing phishing against organizations, so I have Oprah giveaways dot something. CGI-bin dot something. I just bought EquifaxCustomerPortal.com. I have employee benefits dot something. Password reset dot something. These are all things that I can use internally. Assuming I weren't a consultant, these are all domains I could use for internal phishing campaigns. One of my favorite ways to do it is if I'm targeting someone with the .com, I buy the .us or the .something for their organization. And I call this whole method I'm about to mention, I jokingly call the advanced persistent phish. It was a joke, but it kind of stuck. It's a good pun on my podcast, I guess. Anyway, so you buy the .us, the .something to go along with it. That's going to run you between $1 and $35. We'll just say $10 because that's fairly average. You assign a Google email account to it. Not like through the Gmail, but through this. So that's $5 for a month. You get a DigitalOcean droplet. That's $5 for a month. We're up to $20. You buy another domain like CGI-bin. If you go with like a .info, .life, a bunch of those newer domains, it's $1. So right now we're at about $21. How does this piece together? Very simply. You send an email from that .us that you just purchased. Go steal some press releases, some direct quotes out of whoever you're claiming to be. Send it. Give them a link. Send them to the website you're hosting at that other domain on the DigitalOcean droplet. You can use Let's Encrypt. So now it's HTTPS. So you can't just say, oh, if it's HTTPS, you're fine. That doesn't work anymore. I use Let's Encrypt for this every time. I like to clone websites, things like SurveyMonkey. Everybody likes to take surveys, right? You put it there, you slap the company logo on it, you prompt for a username and password. I will say that in my experience, the average right now for people falling victim is about 13%. The last time I ran that, I was at 36%. Because everything was worded correctly. Although I do script an infinite loop in the final page. When I say this survey has closed, it's an infinite loop. Because I want the user to eventually report. It's going to loop, it's going to look like the screen is vibrating and they're going to be like, something is wrong. I want them to report. So, there's always imperfections here. And honestly, I don't really check my spelling when I'm doing these things either because, well, the attackers don't. But if you really want to go that hardcore, you can. And I mean, you can do that and it's going to cost you less than something like PhishMe or Sans Securing the Human or something like that. It's going to be more personalized and you can gear it to your organization. Other things you might want to consider. I like flavors of the month. Like right now, we're in October, about to go into November. What does that mean in the workplace? Open enrollment. People are expecting those emails right now. Oprah loves to give away things in November and December. People always want those W-2s in January. They always want to know who their admirer is in February. They always need a reminder to file their taxes in April. Everybody loves a good Memorial and Labor Day sale. Mother's Day, Father's Day. I mean, there's always Halloween, various holidays. But just think about what's going on in the world at the time you're doing it. Something like, for example, Season 7, Episode 1 of The Walking Dead. We know that was a pretty gruesome episode. You could have easily phished an organization saying, find out who Negan kills here, click here. People would have clicked it left and right. And then if you really wanted to be fun, you could have rickrolled them too. But you can have other mitigations, policy and procedure, general awareness, acceptable use, personal devices. I sent a phishing email to a C-level of a financial institution. He wasn't supposed to click it. He clicked it 15 times on his computer, then opened it on his phone and clicked it 5 more. Then emailed me back and said, hey, that link doesn't work. Can you send a file? So he got a macro-enabled Word doc. Hey, that file doesn't look right. Can you take a look at it and send it to me? Oh, sure. The next time it was an executable with the PowerPoint, with the Excel icon that may have had a little bit of something in it, and he may have had a local admin that allowed some privesc. Oops. Standards of conduct, general awareness, of course. Train them. Train them about insider threat. Insider threat, it's active or it's passive, right? An untrained user is a passive insider threat. Talk about activities, things that people are looking for online. Have it recurring, easy to digest, keep it in the forefront of their mind. Make sure you have management commitment. Use that principle of persuasion. Don't use authority where management's going to beat someone over the head. Show that your senior management is committed to this. From the CEO to the janitor to the intern. Everyone has to be committed. Role-based training, HR, PR, accounting. HR and accounting specifically, they actually are expected to open attachments sent to them via email. Define who they need to report things to, how to report it, what actions to take. If they click a phish, do you want them to turn the computer off, unplug it from the wall, unplug it from the network, reboot it, lock it, nothing? What? Someone working in HR, they're not a security professional. Don't expect them to be. Don't expect them to make security decisions. Make the decision for them, define it, and train on it. Let them tell you, hey, I'm sorry, I got this email, I opened it, I clicked this, apparently it was a phish. I followed all the steps that you said. Tell me what to do next. Thank you. You've just tremendously enhanced our ability for incident response. Tremendously. I now know that I can make a rule and segment that system from the rest of the network. So if it has ransomware, I can mitigate the spread of the ransomware. Something can be done. Don't punish people who click on things. It's human nature. There are some really good fish out there. If people think they're going to get punished, they're not going to report. Gamify things. Make it a game for them to report things. If you offer something as simple as a free cup of coffee once a month to someone who meets some metric dealing with this, make a game out of it. They will rat out their own children, their own spouse, their own mother. Be careful though, Wells Fargo saw how that blew up in their face. So I'm going to do a very, very quick demo here. So, let me adjust my screen here momentarily, if it'll do it. I don't think it wants to play nice today, so we're just going to do it this way. I'm going to do it over my shoulder, I think. There we go. Everybody familiar with the Facebook Live map? Oh, it's a gold mine. So let's just start to zoom in here on a couple of these dots. We'll find one. I like the bigger dots. See what's going on in Dallas today, shall we? Some media, okay. I don't like media. I honestly like to target makeup tutorials. Speaking of which, so I don't really care what she's talking about. We're going to keep that part simple. I'm going to try to spare you as much as possible. But right here, this is the video ID. This is what we're looking for. We're just going to steal this, and there we go. So now I'm on inteltechniques.com. This is Michael Basil's website. And I've clicked video data all, which is right here. We have this pretty little output of data. Well, she's not showing up. Darn, let's find somebody else. Let's find somebody else. What's going on in San Antonio today? I'm feeling really nosy. Oh, it looks like another makeup tutorial. We're good. I always like to pick the bigger dots because they're going to show up in this algorithm a little bit better. Apparently there's a group called Creep Catchers UK if anybody's interested in hunting perverts. No, we don't want translation. Oh, here we go. Hey, look, there's a lat and a long. Wonder what that could be. Well, let's go be nosy, shall we? I like to be nosy. And here we see where it says long. Let's just go ahead and, because Google's like NSA, they know everything already, right? Oh, huh. Interesting. Ahoy there. I'm going to assume that she's probably in this building. But with GPS, she could be in wherever my cursor is. She could be right here. She could be right here. There's several places. But if we wanted to track someone down, we could do that. If we wanted to take it a step further, something from the OSINTframework.com, we could go through public records and property records using the Melissa database, input the zip code. Once we get into the zip code, we can actually dial down further by street and actually find out who the owner is, who the occupants are, how much the house costs, and how much taxes are. Good pretext, right? And then from there, it just goes south. We have names, we can find social media, we can confirm the social media based on the pictures and whatnot. And let me go ahead and work through the remainder of the presentation, and we'll break for lunch. So if you want to contact me, here's my social media platforms and contact information. So advancedpersistentsecurity.net. The podcast is available on all fine podcasting platforms. To be honest, I've not published since February. I have 4 episodes recorded. I just haven't had the time to publish. You can email me. There's my email addresses. I'm on Twitter at C_3PJoe. LinkedIn and Facebook. That's not my Facebook profile. That's just a page where I typically announce where I'm speaking and what have you. If you want to find out more about Sword and Shield, here's how you could do that. There's their presence. If you want a consultation, secure me at swordshield.com. All right, here's some OSINT resources if you want to learn more. Feel free to take a picture of the slide if you want it. Basically, Justin Cites, he has automatingosint.com. He wrote Gray Hat Python and Black Hat Python. LearnAllTheThings.net, that's Josh Huff. He's on Twitter at Beowulf88. Taz runs osint.fail. Christopher Hadnaggy runs social-engineer.org. Some podcasts. Chris Hadnaggy has his Social Engineer podcast. It's on a monthly basis. Michael Basil and Justin Carroll do the Complete Privacy and Security podcast. I put an and out of place there. Just shows I don't spell check things. I do talk about social engineering when I have the podcast quite a bit. Rally Security has it. Danny, I believe his last name is pronounced Akaki, talks about social engineering in great detail there. Another book that I didn't mention in the presentation that's all about some OSINT, Open Source Intelligence Techniques by Michael Basil. There's an Open OSINT Slack channel. I have my Slack channel. And then here's a non-comprehensive list of people to follow. In fact, one of the people on this list is actually speaking in this room next, right after lunch, and that is Snow. But a lot of good people here, and that's basically everything. So if no one has any further questions or anything, thank you very much.